In Liberia, we do that often. We'll try it again, and you responded well. So when I say hello, which sounds like hello, you say hi, which sounds like I. Ready? Hello. Hi. Wonderful. You're all honorary Liberians. We are going to begin with prayer. Dear Lord, we thank you and praise you for this amazing mission trip. We thank you and praise you for all the people who made this possible. And we thank you and praise you for this opportunity to be able to share with our community about all that you had done in Liberia. Please bless our words and all we do and say. This we pray in Jesus' name. Amen. Welcome. It is such a joy to see all of you here. Thank you for coming and being a part and sharing in this experience. I'd like to begin by introducing our team. Been missing one. And you'll also see pictures up here. We have Rachel Keener, Hepsi Kalapala, Dr. Hepsi Kalapala, Joel Zilke, Russ Tajak, myself, Judy Rink, and I wanted to point out two people who are not here today who have been a part of our team. One of them on the far left is Sandy Helm. Sandy has been a part of this team for 13 months. She's not here this morning. About 5 days before the trip, Sandy's husband, it was found that he needed cancer surgery while we were going to be gone. And so right at the last minute, she was not able to go. However, Sandy has been and continues to be a part of this team. She has done so much to make this a successful mission trip. And you'll hear more about that as we go. And the other person, second from the right, is Joe Boway, and we'll explain more about who he is. But Joe is with us every moment of this trip as well. So I want to begin just quickly reviewing what this was about, for those who might be new to hearing about this. Can everyone hear me in the back? William, can you hear me? Awesome. Okay, so we've been planning this trip for 13 months, and many of you have been a part of that. We have had events, we've made witness bracelets, which are these bracelets here that explain the gospel story. We've had events where we did sew-ins, and a lot of you came for that. Our Sunday school, our Girl Scouts, our day school, so many members of our congregation were a huge part of making this trip a success. People were collecting shoes, donating money for Bibles, donating money for travel. Like I said, in addition to creating items that we needed for this trip. So many people were praying, and that was the absolute most important thing. If you did anything to help with this trip, any of the things that I named or any of the things I didn't name, can you please raise your hand right now? Okay, look around. These people here, this is all this team. And not just these people, but there were many people, even outside of this room here, who contributed and helped with that. So thank you so much for our whole Immanuel team, because God used all of our Immanuel community and beyond to make this such a successful trip. I wanted to do a quick review about Liberian Children's Ministry, so you know why we decided to go to Liberia. We kind of didn't decide it, God called us to it. We have been working with Liberian Children's Ministry, which is Mr. Joe Boway, the gentleman on the first slide, for about 10 years here at Immanuel. We have been providing resources from our school, when our textbooks, when we don't use those anymore, we've been sending them to Liberia, any extra desks, supplies. We've raised money to sponsor children who would be attending the Lutheran schools there. And so we've had this relationship with Joe for over 10 years. So he began, after the Civil War in Liberia, realized there was a whole generation that didn't even know how to read. And he went into the rural areas of Liberia and had slowly founded and began 14 Lutheran schools in the jungles and the rural areas of Liberia. And he continues to run these schools, even though he lives in Fort Wayne. He travels to Liberia multiple times a year and then manages these 14 schools. He's basically like the superintendent. He has over 5,000 children in these schools that he takes care of. Plus he's like got a job here at home and has a family. So very busy man. Our respect and love for Joe grew exponentially through this trip in seeing all that he does and his passion and love for the people of Liberia, because they don't have much. And what he does is making a difference, not just for those communities, but for the country in an amazing way. So what he is doing is highly, highly effective. Through the years, thousands have been baptized through these schools because many of the children who attend these schools are not Christian. When Joe invited us to come, we said, well, what do you want us to do? And he said, basically anything would help. So we worked with him and said, what are the greatest needs? And so through what he determined, and us working with him, determined what the greatest needs were, this is what we came up with. Early childhood teacher training, educating young women and men on God's design for intimacy and marriage. There are a lot of teen pregnancies. Providing washable, reusable feminine hygiene kits for young women. They don't have access to any of those types of products. And sharing the gospel with the community, and we wanted to also empower the school children who were already Christian to be able to share the gospel with their non-Christian family and friends. So this is our mission focus. So I wanted to show you what it took to actually fly there. We'll see if I can do this. So here we were for Chicago. We flew to DC, and then up to Belgium, to Brussels, somewhere in there. And then down here, this is Liberia. So here's just like, this is us enjoying Europe. I really wish you could see Joel, who's at the bottom part, who's completely folded in half, in that tiny little couch. We each had our own tiny couch. We were there for a couple hours and just left the entire time. So this is a map, obviously Africa. You can see where Liberia is, in West Africa. The map on the right is of Liberia. And so when we flew into Monrovia. Monrovia is the capital. We were there for maybe a day and a half, and then we flew in a Cessna plane, which you'll get to see our little puddle jumper, that we flew from Monrovia into Zwedru. So this is the area where we spent most of our time ministering. However, teachers came from all over the country to be a part of our teacher workshops. Some of them came all the way from up here in Foya. Foya is probably about here. So they had to travel, because you can't go from here to Zwedru. You had to go all the way down here to Monrovia and then drive all the way through the jungle to Zwedru. They traveled a lot to come and be a part of this, and it was very exciting for us. This is what a third world airport looks like in the capital city of Liberia. So they are building a new one. They're close to completion of a new one. We were blessed to have, this is Joe here, and we were blessed to have AB, who is the head of Liberian immigration, who basically whisked us into the VIP diplomat line, and we got to go through. So that was fun. We were, quite proud of that, even though we did nothing to deserve it. So we stayed, when we were in Monrovia, we stayed in a Lutheran compound. This is, the building behind us is not where we stayed. That was like the nicer building they use for receptions and such. But we stayed in a simpler guest house there when we were there for those day and a half when we were flying in and out of Liberia. This is where Joe stays when he's, again, kind of his home base. This is what it looks like outside the walls of the Lutheran compound. So you can see there's a tremendous poverty in Liberia. This is the capital city. This is, the heart of the city, and yet there are a lot of broken down, damaged buildings from the war, buildings that had been started to be built, and then they didn't have enough money to continue. There's just, you can see, in this picture on the left, just a lot of shacks, and I was shocked, and it made a huge impact on me to find out we saw people were living in this building. They were living there. There's no wall. I was like, what if they have children? They're going to fall off this. There's no wall. people were living there. And Joe said, those are actually the lucky ones. Because during the wet season, they're up high and it's dry. So there's like 70–80% unemployment rate in Liberia. It's a very poor country. Poor in money, but not in spirit. We were about a block from the beach, and it's interesting to see there were a few nice, behind us is a compound that's actually owned by Lebanese people. There are a lot of wealthy Lebanese people that have businesses and apartments there. So we popped over the beach for a quick walk. There's criminal activity on the beach, so you can't be on there too long, but we did want to stop. Beautiful, beautiful natural beauty there that they have. So you have this contrast of this gorgeous beach and then all the poverty that's, along and a part of that. This is St. Peter Lutheran Church and School. It was a block from our compound in Monrovia. So we're still in the capital city. We're not where we actually did the bulk of our ministry. While we were in Monrovia, we were meeting a lot of people, a lot of Joe's friends, a lot of the college students that were being sponsored by Liberian Children's Ministry, a lot of the pastors in the community. Everybody wants to meet the Americans. And so we met a lot of people and a lot of pastors. We were very blessed to be able to go to St. Peter's. And one of the most poignant things for us was when we went to visit there. This is where, as I mentioned, there was a civil war. The war ended about 14 years ago. It lasted about 14 years. It's very much a reality for these people. Many of these adults, they lived through this war. Joe himself, we found out, lost 4 brothers in the Civil War. So those realities of the war were, I mean, it's one thing to read about it, it's something else to actually see it and experience it. Well, at St. Peter's, we were there, and the pastor and the principal were showing us around, and the first thing they did was they showed us these stars. There were 2 stars on the playground area. During the war, there were 250 people that went to this church, St. Peter's Lutheran, for refuge. So they were in the church, not military people, just civilians. And the dictator at the time went in and had all of them killed. So all 250 men, women, and children were massacred in this church. And it's referred to as the Lutheran Massacre. There are 2 stars that represent the mass graves from the victims of that. So that reality is like, here you're coming, we're going to visit this school, and then to be hit with that reality of war. As we went through into the church, the pastor is very gracious, was so excited to show us and tell us about the history. You could see bullet holes in the windows of the church still. They decided not to tear it down. They said, we don't want this to be a place where it's just remembering bad things. We want this to be something we're going to have. It's going to be something where we remember and praise God, and it's going to be a place of good. So this was us meeting and learning about that history. We also got to visit the school there and got to play with the children. How fun. We had such a wonderful time just hanging out with the kids. They're very fascinated with us because we look different. Our hair is different. They like to touch our hair. They pinch our skin. They weren't quite sure what to do with it. They wanted to just touch us. At any time, you might have 20 kids around each of us, just kind of pulling on you and such. Such a joy. Absolutely, just such a joy to be able to talk with and hang out with the children. And this was one of the classrooms. Again, this is all in the capital. We're not yet in the rural area. This is all in the capital city. Our supplies, these are some of the supplies we brought with us. We brought a lot. A lot was also in the shipping container, which should arrive today. Finally, I hope. We hope. All of the things that we had created and brought got delayed for multiple reasons, mostly on the end of U.S. Customs, not on the Liberian end. And so we brought as much as we could with us, as far as just having samples of showing them, this is what you're going to get, and this is how you use them. So then when they come and they're shipped out to around all the schools in the country, they would know what to do. So these are some of the things. They're putting them on this truck. Now, these guys got covered up the truck and then got on top of the truck. Yes, that big, on top, on the tarps. And so about 4 guys will sit on top of that truck, and then they drove through the jungle all night and all day to get to Zwedru. And it's a jungle road. You will see it later. And it's you'll see what they had to endure. We fortunately did not have to do that. Hepsi will tell you about that.
Good morning, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank God for giving all of us this opportunity to visit Liberia and do some work. Next, I would like to thank the church members and pastor, and also our families who supported us. I'm going to talk briefly about Cessna flight. Liberia is a country where it's still open to gospel. A lot of mission work is done there. Lutheran Church is doing a lot of mission work. And also, when I was on the flight, I noticed there are 3 teams on the flight going to Liberia. There was a pastor who's going there to do pastor's training, and there's our team is going to do the teacher's training, and there's one more team there whose job is to dig wells, bore wells for water in Liberia. I was sitting by the pilot in this flight, and I started talking to him. He was telling, he is a missionary through Mission Aviation Fellowship. They contact the control tower for flights, but their flights are not tracked by the control towers. Mission Aviation Fellowship tracks the flights. So if something happens, Mission Aviation Fellowship has to send the rescue team. And these pilots do their commitment, stay in Monrovia for a few years, and fly the teams from one place to another place. This experience really humbled me. Thank you. So our team is here. This is Joe and rest of the team members. The guy behind us, his name is Friedrich. He's Joe's brother, half-brother. He knows gospel. We are praying for him. We shared the gospel with him, but he did not make any real commitment to the Lord. And these are the jungle. This is the jungle where we are flying.
So yeah, you can see it's rainforest. As we were flying, it was almost all rainforest below us. So that was amazing to see. And in the first slide you saw, Hepsi was our co-pilot on the way there, and then Joel got to be a co-pilot on the way home. And then this is a nice shot of Monrovia as we were flying out. It's like you can see right on the coast. One of the funny stories, Russ here works for Canon Copier. He does. He trains people to use the copy machines, to fix the copy machines, and there happens to be one of his machines, it wasn't ours, it had nothing to do with us, happens to be, we chartered this flight, and yet somebody had this Canon copier on our flight, and he was like, he knew exactly what model, he's like, oh yeah, I know this. God works in mysterious ways. What's even funnier is that the missionary guy who came to pick up his machine, said, oh, the reason I had to buy this machine was because my other one broke and I didn't have a Canon copier repairman. And they sent one with my new machine. A couple days later, he tracked us down, and this missionary tracked us down in Zwedru, found Russ and said, I'm having trouble setting it up. Can you hop on my motorbike and come with me? So Russ took off with him to go and help him set up his new Canon copier machine. So I use Russ in unexpected ways too. We wanted to tell you some about what life was like for us and for the people in Liberia. So while we were there, we stayed with, one of the most amazing things was we stayed with an African family. We lived in their home. We lived with them. At any given moment, there were probably about 20 people either in the house, in front of the house, in the backyard, people coming and going all the time. And so Pastor Dway and his wife Doris are in the center. They were our gracious guests. They live in this home, but it doubles as a guest house most of the time, many of the time, where then they sleep on the floor, and we are in their rooms, and they take care of us. They wash our clothes, they cook us food and such. So we wanted you, but it was so amazing to be able to live life. I mean, our life was a little more elevated than most, more than a little elevated than most Liberians, and yet it was still harder conditions. It was 90 to 100 degrees every day while we were there, probably 95% humidity, no air conditioning at all, anywhere that we went, even if you went, to someplace else. And night rains, especially when you were coming from Chicago polar vortex. So this is no running water. So we'll show you some of the conditions, some of what we had. So this is Pastor Doris's house at the top, and they're building another little house next to it. These are much nicer. You'll see later when we show you pictures of Zwedru what it looks like for most other people's homes. So the bathroom down here, you can see. So this was very nice accommodations because there was a toilet here. Now it's not connected, and yet there's this big bucket here of water, and so basically they just keep refilling that, and then you just pour a bucket of water in the toilet. There's no sink. We would brush our teeth outside, but here is like there's a drain, and you would wash yourself. Show us, Rachel, how you would wash yourself. And the water honestly isn't overly clean that you're using to wash it.
So a giant bucket of dirty water from the well in their backyard, and you would scoop up a bucket of water, the bucket you see in the shower, and you would take the little scooper and use it to shower.
So, and we slept, and you can see we also slept in mosquito nets. We had those. It was the dry season, bugs were not a problem, but we still had mosquito nets everywhere where we slept. Because bugs are a problem. I mean, there are so many insect-borne illnesses in that area, but especially during the wet season, so that was an issue. This is the kitchen. The kitchen is in the backyard. They have an outdoor kitchen, so you can see there's the cook stove and things like that. They make charcoal out of the wood, and they use that. And then you see this young woman is sweeping, and behind her is a mortar and pestle. They use very primitive, very simple implements. You can see the broom she has is like, twigs and such. That's what they use. And so this is the kitchen. There's no kitchen in the house. This is what they have. So no running water, no kitchen. This is a kitchen storage on the left. So that's where they keep all the kitchen stuff. They bring it outside to cook their meals and do that. And then in the middle, that was what they provide you with a meal once a day. And it was a big pot of rice. And then it was usually a spicy meat in like kind of a soupy gravy. Do you think that was the potato greens that you were cutting? So this one was some cassava potato greens that were cut up and mixed in there too. So it's very, like kind of a very spicy, stewy soup type thing that you pour onto plain rice. For even the most seasoned of us who are used to spicy foods, we opted for the plain rice. and then often broke up bits of our own beef jerky and put it in there, and granola bars. So bottom line is, while we lived in Zwedru for those 8 days, we ate rice, beef jerky, and granola bars. And that was fine. We knew that. We brought that food. They told us to bring food you're comfortable with. We never got sick. Not one of us got sick there, which I completely expected each of us to be sick at one time or another. So then on one of the days, the pastor was, when we were in the jungle, there was somebody who just hunted a deer, and so he bought the deer from them. So this is what you do. This is the outside kitchen, right? The young men, that's Thomas, one of the pastor's sons. Pastor has kind of a lot of adopted type children in his family. So that's just on the dirt, and they grabbed the banana leaves and put them out and started cutting up the deer. And then they cooked it up, and we ate it the following day. And we did have it. That was good. We did have the deer. So that's the kind of food that they eat, and we ate along with them, kind of. So this is how they wash clothes, just out in the backyard. And it's like a washboard. You'll see a washboard, just like you think of from the early, like, pioneer days. Picture pioneer days, and that's what it is. A lot of that. It's very interesting.
We use washboards, but we're not that old.
Okay. So, George, not just pioneer days, but in George Schoen's early days as well. So, and that was just like a couple years ago. So behind them that's the outdoor latrine that everyone else used. Only we use the restroom in the house. Everyone else used that outdoor latrine. So I'm going to show you, this is a video clip of the backyard. So I'm just kind of going around the backyard so you'll have a sense of what this looks like. And I think you'll hear me talking on it, explaining what it is too. Keep watching it, I'll work on sound.
Those are chickens. Those are our chickens. And those are our neighbors. And those are other chickens. And these are our friends. Oh, we want to take another well. And these are our friends.
These are our special girls. We wanted to bring them home with us. And Frida and Linda.
Hello. Oh, and Moses is going to show us about how the well works.
Moses is pastor's son.
Moses works very, very hard. More than anyone I know.
And he's deaf and he's mute.
There it is. That's how we get our water.
Yeah, you can see it's not the cleanest.
Thank you, Moses. And this is where the kids stay in this home, right in the back here. And there are about, I think, maybe 12 people that live in
So
there.
12 people live in that home
And almost
that are part of pastor's family. And they have
and they're building this
4 or 5 to a bed.
one to accommodate more of the people from that house.
And they're building that one to accommodate some of the other people there.
This is
And that's the house that we stayed. That's the nicer guest house that pastor adores to live in. We woke up to those, they call them chickens. They're roosters, as you can hear. But they call them chickens, and we woke up to them every morning. So this is, these are our friends. These are the people who live in the home, these in the little home behind. These are pastor's family. These are the people that we got to know and love the most and miss the most. And it was just such a joy to share life with them. So these are a couple of the teachers, pastor's children, his grandchildren, and they were just all a part of our extended family there in Zwedru. The first night we got to Zwedru, we had just gotten there, and they told us, oh, tonight we're having a women's fellowship. And so that was like kind of like women's Bible study. I'm guessing a little different than how we do it here, but and they invited us to join. So you can see us there for sitting in on women's fellowship, and I have a video clip showing you what theirs is like. And to answer your question you're thinking about, yes, we danced with them. We danced with them, and we were even in the middle of the circle some of the times. It was an absolute beautiful expression of faith. And we were in awe and trying to get our brains around that we were sitting around in the midst of this, taking this in, that we were in Africa, that we are a part of this. It was amazing, absolutely amazing to be a part of. Russ is going to share about the community of Zwedru.
First of all, I'd like just to First of all, I'd like just to thank everybody that supported us in any which way you could. But I also like to thank our group, our team here, and Joe. And I especially thank God for allowing us to have the opportunity to be able to witness and also develop a relationship with the folks of Liberia. Well, here we are, we're in Zwedru, and as you can see here, Zwedru is approximately 350 miles from Monrovia. And it takes about 8.5 hours as the African crow flies to get there. But if you were to travel by car, it would take approximately 14 hours. And the truck that we had that we shipped things with, that took approximately 16 hours to go on their super highways that they have, which is dirt and full of holes and everything.
Yeah, you'll see a video.
And you'll see a video about that. But their population, you have to understand, they did come through a civil war. Most of the folks fled the country to neighboring countries for refuge until the war was over. So prior to that, they had a large population. Now they have a population, last count was back in 2008, approximately 24,000, and growing, obviously, since the last census in 2008. They're mainly known for timber and lumber. The northern half of Liberia, they have one of the rarest bird habitats in the region. So that's kind of like a protected area, and they're proud of that. Though we saw some of the birds that are there, and no, we didn't see any lions, tigers, giraffe, hippos, rhinoceroses. They are actually well into the jungles, not in the areas where we were at. Although I did see a monkey, and that was at the missionary's house that I was working on the copier, which I'm still trying to figure. I wanted to be as far away from a copier as I could. And all of a sudden, I get on the plane, and what do I see? And I'm going, oh boy. So, at any rate, that's a little bit about there. They used to be timber and wood products. They still do some of that, but not as much anymore.
You can click ahead. You should click ahead.
Yeah. So anyway, this is one of these sunrises that we had. I usually got up early in the morning, and I always like to listen to the birds, and especially the doves in the morning, and especially the rooster that was getting me up every morning. Now, I don't know if the others heard it as much as I did, but what amazed me more than anything is that the people of Liberia get up early, especially the women. They're the ones that get up, they do the cooking in the morning, they do the preparing and everything, and it's just amazing that what they do. And I was just very, just very surprised that the women, how much they do, that goes unrecognized. And I was very thankful for that. But this is one of the sunrises that we had in Liberia. And over here, this is some of the housing that they have. You saw the pastor's house, which was considered to be a little bit more upscale as far as the housing. But yeah, and this is actually down one of the main streets. And actually, this street that you see here has sidewalks. This is one of the very few streets that have sidewalks in the whole county. As you can see, there's a woman there. Women carry a lot on their heads, as Joel will attest to. He tried carrying something on his head, and these women carry up to approximately anywhere from 50 to 75 pounds of whatever on their heads. And they do it so gracefully, and they're so agile, and don't even use their hands. So it was quite interesting. But as you can see, some of the housing that we have here. And this is an African gas station. And this is by and large what you see there. If you want gas, you pull up, and then they just buy a jar of gas, and then they have a funnel, and then they just fill it for you. So, but I will say though that there are some newer, more modern gas stations, but there's just a few of them. This is by and large what you see most often around Zwedru. Over here, this is some of the structures they have. One of them on the left there, you see is bamboo. This is one of the, Rachel and Hepsi and I, we were walking down one of the roads, and we met one of the women and their family. She was a minister of a church that she has, and we actually went inside that structure, but that's what she uses as for her church. On the bottom right there, you'll see that this is how they make their homes. They make them out of mud, and what they do is they take mud with water, they have a form, and what they do is then they pour the mud into this form, let it dry, let it sit outside in the hot, bright sun, and like curing, if you will, and that takes about 3-4 days. Then they start putting them in just like it were bricks, and then they use mud to kind of, like cement would be used to hold it all together. After about a number of days, then what do? Then they take mud and then they just kind of skin the side of the house, as you see in the upper one up here, and then they paint it. And you all have to have this done before the rain season commences. So they scurry like crazy to get it done. And you know, if you want to talk to them, you talk to them as they work. They don't stop. So this is kind of a little bit of what's going on there. Here, this is what you see a lot of longhorn over there. They're all over. And one of them right there, excuse me, one of them, the shepherd right there, I spoke to him, and he just says, yes, I just walk around town with them, and then when it comes time, we decide what we're going to do with them, because that's part of their culture as far as then take them to market, for example. And so this is off to the side of a soccer field that we were at, and we kind of had to stop for a while. Joel's group had to stop for a while and let them pass through. And by the way, one of our flights that we had going back from Zwedru back to Monrovia, our flight was delayed because across the landing field, a herd of these longhorns were crossing, so they couldn't land the plane until they were clear. So, kind of interesting. This is the market that they have, and this is an open air market. They sell all sorts of things there, anywhere from food to clothing to radios, things like that. And also they sell a lot of candy over there as well, as you can see here in the bottom. Yeah. Over here in the open market, this is their fresh market. They sell open air, not like we have it here. Fish and chicken legs. Chicken legs, fish and chicken legs. And then just some more of the open market that we have. And over here, this is Joel and Joe, both of the slides. This is where one of the shipments that came in, we were distributing some of the Bible books and stories. Joel's reading to some of the kids, some of the books that they received. So, gives you an idea a little bit about the town and what we do. You can see there, the gals, we were all partaking in all sorts of activities that we had as well. And here I am. My favorite part was the kids. I love kids, especially the little ones. They touch my heart dearly. And there's Joel on the right there. It was a hot day outside the church, and he was pumping the water for some of the local villagers so they can, the kids can take it back to their homes.
Good morning. I just want to echo what everyone else said previously. We're so thankful and grateful for your support and prayers. We certainly felt God's presence with us the whole time there. And as Judy mentioned, no one got sick. You know, that wasn't an accident. That was you guys praying for us each and every moment. So thank you for that. I want to talk briefly about Sunday worship. And worship there is a little bit different than worship here. We'll have a quick video here that we can run through and see how they do. So right now this is the offering. Everybody comes up, children, all the way up through the adults. They drop their offering in the bin in the front. And there's so much joy. As Judy mentioned, very poor nation, but they still tithe. Hepsi, you can see here in the front, was getting in on the action a little bit as well. She also was referred to as white woman. And on the left, Russ. This is probably the oldest woman of the congregation. She liked to dance in front a lot as well.
And that's the only one that I can find that can dance my speed.
Music is a huge part of their worship. They had 3 different choirs, a children's choir, kind of a young adult, and then an older woman's choir. Rachel will demonstrate, this is sasa, one of the instruments that they use a lot throughout worship service. Here's a picture after worship with us and some of the children. And it was a fantastic experience.
So everyone was so eager to meet us and to spend time with us. And you know, it was funny, one of the things that Joe kept saying to us beforehand was flexibility, flexibility, flexibility. You're gonna have plans, but you gotta take your lead from God, right? And so this was one of our first opportunities to see that. We had a plan for our day. We showed up at the school to tour the school and to set up for our workshops that weren't supposed to begin until Monday. And this was Saturday, and we found that there were teachers who had traveled to be with us for the workshops that thought for some reason we were starting early, and so they showed up like so eager to hear what we had to say 2 days early because they just really, really wanted to talk with us. And so we just kind of abandoned our plan for the day and we hung out with them, and it was a really great opportunity for us to introduce the kids to them, which was an amazing experience because it just showed us what it would mean to them. It was beautiful, and Judy will talk more about that, but yeah, so it's just great. Another thing that was really, it was so exciting to be able to adapt and be flexible with everything. Joe told us for the teacher workshops that we were going to have a portable blackboard. And to me, that meant like that as a blackboard. But what it actually was this blackboard that was so decrepit that they weren't using it anymore, and they had taken it off the wall, and they came and they just like propped it up on the ground, and they're like, here's your blackboard, and we're like, oh, okay, well, I don't know how anybody's going to see that, so we had to figure out a way to use what we had there to prop it up, so it was fun. But, you know, that's the kind of thing that they have to do because of their limited resources, and it was wonderful to be able to talk to the teachers and encourage them and empower them that, you know, teachers all over the world have to be creative with what they have, and that they were doing amazing things with that. There were 55 teachers there from all over, like Judy said, from all over the country. It was really amazed by their heart for what they do, for their understanding. You know, in their culture, children are not viewed very highly. They eat last. The younger the children are, the further they are down the pipeline. And but these teachers actually, I got a chance to share with them that they're leaders in their community because they understand that the children are the future and that the education that they are providing is the future of their country, and that they could be leaders in their community in that way. So we had 3 main focuses in our teacher training, and one was to get at some basic concepts of children and how they learn, and that they're valuable, and that they have potential, and that we invest resources in them because they're able to learn, because again, that's something that's not well understood in that country at all. And
So we got to talk about that. We also talked about some different, more creative methodologies. They don't have, in their classrooms are just a blackboard and some chalk if they're lucky, and desks or benches, depending on which school you're in, and so that's what they have. Some of the schools have books, some of them don't. They certainly don't have books in their classrooms like we do. And so we talked to them about some different ways that they could teach with just those resources, with just the blackboard and nothing else, or with things that they could find in their community. We talked about acting out stories, and we had the teachers come and join us in putting on a drama, and they were so excited about that and so into it. So that's what those pictures are from. They were really excited about that idea. And we spent a lot of time in small groups, really trying to model for them some of those more student-directed methods, and also give them the opportunity to brainstorm themselves and think about what they could do. You know, nobody really tells them that they could do things differently than when they were growing up. So that was really cool to encourage them to think about things in a new way, and that they were in charge. They could do something new. So yeah, we also gave them, we created some resources for them and showed them how to use those resources, and one of those resources was an alphabet chart it's a Liberian alphabet chart, so every letter of the alphabet has an object that the kids would actually know, because any of our materials here would be so out of context for them that they would be completely inaccessible, and so we created something that would be more accessible to them. And when we were talking about how to use them, it was revealed that the teachers said, well, we can't teach the letter sounds because we don't know the letter sounds. No one's ever taught us the letter sounds. So, again, flexibility, we turned our plan a different way and taught the letter sounds. And I taught a room of 55 adults how to sound out words, and they didn't know how to do that, and they were so excited. They burst into applause, and it gave me chills. It was amazing. It was amazing. But yeah, their own education is quite deficient, and that's a real challenge for them going forward, trying to teach in their classrooms. But it was just a beautiful experience to be able to encourage them and to find things that were the same about our mission and our vocation. And there was always kids hanging out around the windows because they were really excited about what we were doing, very curious about what we were doing.
Was yellow the color of the school, or?
Yeah, so all the school, you can see yellow and green, all the Lutheran schools, no matter where we were in the country, wore those colors. That was their given colors. Yep. So another big part of our ministry there was workshops for young women. At first it was sharing the gospel and sharing God's design for marriage. We used these witness bracelets and the witness cards. We had cards that we gave out that explained God's story. And so they call them bangles. And so we gave out many bangles to these girls. So we started with sharing God's story. Then we talked about God's design for marriage and intimacy. As we said, teen pregnancy is a problem there. And this was what Joe had asked us to do. The girls were, we had hundreds of girls that we had the opportunity to talk with of the junior high through high school. And so we explained to them, about what God's plans were for their lives. And part of that too, then we provided them with these kits. These are feminine hygiene kits. They're washable, reusable, and they last 2 to 3 years. These girls do not have access to those products. It makes their life very difficult. These were life-changing. Talk about bursting in applause and the excitement and joy that they had because they used dirty rags or anything you can find. That's all they got. but to have a kit that actually fastens and washes, and so we spent a good amount of time sharing with them. They all got them. As I said, there's 1,600 of them that will be then shipped to all the schools. So I also trained all the teachers as far as, because then when those kids go to their schools, they can train the girls on how to use them, since a lot of them were still in the shipment. The girls were so excited about these kits, and like I said, they are life-changing. Afterwards, I was impressed that here are these teenage girls, they just come up and hug us and thank us so much. There was such this attitude of gratitude. There wasn't a, oh great, I got this, and run out the door. They just all came to us and talked to us and thanked us. We had Hepsi who answered questions for them. The girls, there was no embarrassment of the teachers or the girls that asked many questions, and Hepsi did such a fantastic job, not only explaining things medically, but also from a Christian perspective. Hepsi answering questions. She took many questions. There were 200 to 300 children in the Lutheran school. 200 to 300 Muslim children in the Lutheran school that we were working with, the main school. So these are some of the Muslim girls that were in the workshops that we were talking about Jesus in. And they were asking questions about Jesus. And it was amazing to be able to provide them with these resources, because they asked so many questions, and you can tell from a Muslim perspective about Jesus. They were new students to the school, so that was so exciting to have that opportunity. This is Grace. She's not in the school. She's deaf and mute as well, so she doesn't learn in the school, but I went to her home and gave her and her mom a kit and showed them how to use them. Disabled people are very incorporated and accepted in the culture, and they're just, everybody still just loves them, and they do what they can to be a part of the community. So Hepsi had kind of an impromptu medical clinic where in between workshops, in our teacher workshop, and also even in the home, people would come and she was doing exams and help them deal with things like gastritis, typhoid, TB, malaria, hepatitis B, C, D, E, F. So there were a lot of different things and that was not, it was not a medical mission, and yet we did bring medicines, and so Hepsi had this kind of, it's an impromptu medical clinic, and so a number of people were served in that way.
So feminine hygiene is not my strong suit. So I am a soccer coach, and I was blessed to have an opportunity. Sport is a universal language. They love football there, and I was very pleased to go there and be able to work with these young men and talk to them a little bit about not only soccer, but God's plan for their life as well. Most of them have never seen a cone before. So we took a stack of cones, and they were just, oh, you can do dribbling drills. And it was just incredible with that. We also took 25 soccer balls, and they were a school of about 800 and had one ball with holes in it. So they thought this was just the most amazing thing ever. Here we are hiding out in the shade, 100 degrees with 95% humidity in the middle of the day was a little bit hot. Yeah. Here they are, doing some dribbling drills as well. There we go. So here we are at the school. When we brought all the balls, pumped them up, you can see the pastor on the left, some of the boys on the right. Just thrilled with that. Here's Joe on the left and Hepsi on the right. So when I was doing some of the soccer stuff, they were able to take smaller groups of young men and kind of discuss with them about teenage pregnancy and how that affects your life if you're having a child when you're 15 years old. And God has better things for you, and talking to them in that way. So that was very powerful. Russ on the left, wrestling a group of kids. And there's he is with the shepherd on the right as well.
So we were really blessed. I know we're running out of time here. We were very blessed to be able to visit many of the schools. We saw a lot of variety in schools in terms of both the size of the school and the amount of resources that they have. They have their assemblies all outside. This is the school that we were at most of the time. This has 800 students.
Joe has them showing us the books that they have. The tops of the classrooms are all open, so noise is like a really big problem there. Because it's just, there's no barriers to that. This is us with some of the teachers at that school. This is, then after our teacher workshops, we were very blessed to be able to go and spend a day going out much further into the rural area. This is their main highway in the entire country. Joe said it's like Highway 80. And you can see like the big ditches. And this doesn't really even do justice to just the amount of jostling that was going on. I banged my head a lot on the side of the car. Yeah, so this is Laytown. One of the, this is an important slide for you because you all donated books. If you remember, we've been donating books for Joe's Ministries for a while. A lot of them went to this, the shipping container that's painted with Noah's Ark. That's a library. And your books are in that library, and we got to see that. So that was, and we didn't even plan that, we just showed up and there it was. And you can see Russ is on the right. It was a much more rural area. It was really cool to be able to be out a little further into the jungle. This was a nicer school. We noticed a lot of things about this school that really made it, it was better than a lot of the other schools we saw. And it was because this church, this school has a partnership with a church in Minnesota. And they're both Trinity, and two of their teachers had visited there in 2014 with Joe, and they kind of adopted this school. And because they have a long-term partnership, we could go into their classrooms and we could see that the level of education had risen in that school, and it was really amazing. When we were there, they cooked lunch for us. They're so gracious and serving, and we wanted to do a lot more things. We wanted to wash our own clothes, wanted to help cook, whatever, and they wouldn't let us because they just really wanted to serve. So they had food for us. There was a rainstorm that came in that was pretty amazing. We'll skip over that. These ladies are just women in the church, the pastor's wife. They cooked lunch for us, and then they presented us with 2 chickens, because that is a thing, apparently, that you do in Liberia, especially out in the rural areas. You give to guests and visitors to honor them, and everybody was very interested in thanking us for our support. So we will pass that thanks and gratitude on to you. So we got 2 chickens there. See, that's more examples of carrying things on your head. Another one of the schools that's only about 2 years old, and they have the preschool and the kindergarten kids are both meeting in the church because the school is so new and they don't have as many classrooms yet. So the preschool kids face one way and the kindergarten kids face the other way. And don't ask me how that works, because I don't know how that works. But we got to spend some time with those kids and read them some stories and share our bracelets. We met the village chief, came out the tribal chief. He's the one with his arm around Judy.
You can recognize him.
And yes, you can recognize him. And they presented us with a rooster as well, and thanked us for our support. And the woman right next to Russ, it was so great. She stood up and she's like, I'm the head cook at this church, and I do a lot of things for the church. And I really wish I had known you were coming, because I would have prepared a meal for you. And I thought just how, there are some things that are totally universal, right? Like if I had known you were coming. And so she's like, please take this chicken instead. And then this is a video. The last school. Okay. So this is a Monrovian market. We got to visit there, and those are coconuts. Yeah, just through. We're back at the Lutheran compound in Monrovia. We got to worship. I forget who's supposed to be talking right now. I don't think it's me, but
I'll just keep going. Well, we got to worship with Pastor Amos Bolay. He is the head of the Lutheran Church in Liberia, and he is one of the pastors that Pastor Seba and Ruth have worked with when they have gone, and they've stayed in Monrovia and done pastoral training workshops. And so in that church, that banner behind is from the Pastoral Leadership Institute session. So we thought that was pretty cool. He was very excited to have us as his guests. And right before, people were asking before we left what we were going to do for fun. Well, right before we left, for like an hour on our way to the airport, we got to go and see the beach, and it was really beautiful.
What'd you do with all the chickens?
Well, so this was like the day before we left to go back to Monrovia. So we didn't actually get to eat those chickens, although we did eat some of the deer that we got on that same day. But we brought them back to the pastor's house, and you actually saw them in the first video with the pastor's house. Those were some of the chickens that were running around. They don't keep chickens penned up at all. Actually, none of their animals, they don't keep penned up. There's just chickens kind of everywhere, which was very interesting. So the chickens were there, and the pastor was able to. But there was another group that was coming the next week to do pastoral training, so they probably got to eat our chickens. Sure. So there were so many things about this trip. I mean, it's so hard to fit everything. It's impossible to fit everything in an hour, but so many things about this trip that were amazing and impactful. Their wealth in terms of their spiritual life is so evident and beautiful. And I just felt like, man, we are missing something because we don't have joy like that. Like, I couldn't believe the joy that they had, and the amount of time that they spend visiting with people, connecting with people, and praying with people is something I've never seen before. And would love to try to figure out how to just, I don't know, maybe God can do a new thing here too. And everything, there was this real sense the entire time that we were there that everything that we were doing was truly meaningful. Because we had spent so much time listening to Joe and praying about what God wanted us to do, and then because the people there are just so amazing, all of the time that we spent, we really, really felt like it was very meaningful to us both, to them and to us.
The other thing that, I mean, there are so many, we've had conversations, and obviously we're out of time, but so there's so much that reflections and just, there's so much that we gleaned from this experience that we want to, remember, learn from, pass on. One of the other things that we had talked about was God's hand was so apparent in everything that happened. And we knew we were covered with prayer. It was palpable. We could tell that you were all praying, the rest of this mission team. Everything went smoothly. Yes, we had to be flexible for some things, but everything we did was just met with this, when we handed out the kids to the girls, they're just, applauding and cheering, and everything was life-changing. And there was none of us getting sick, none of us getting hurt. There were so many things that could have gone wrong. We were all crammed with Joe in a tiny little car with no car seats, driving through the city of Monrovia that has no traffic rules. There's so many things that could have gone wrong. Thank you for your prayers. Thank you for your support. And we praise God for his trip. This was his from start to finish, and it was so evident and so apparent that we just sensed his presence, not only in the ministry that we went and planned to do and did, but in all the other opportunities that we had there, and we had many. In talking to the wood carvers and talking to the waitresses, it just kept going on. We are sharing Jesus with all of them. And we thank you so much for your support in that.
Thank you.
We want to close with a very short, simple song. If you have to go, that's fine, but this is a kind of like their doxology. So at any point, you need to stand up. You must stand. Dancing is optional, but you must stand.
point, people can do what they call raising a song. And if there's little moments here and there where people are waiting around, they'll often ask someone to raise a song. So we're going to raise a song right now. We're going to sing it through 2 times. It's very, very simple. You'll catch on, I promise.